Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our reading through the TANAK night, 12th of July, 2023. We'll be dealing with Elijah and some of the things that he done. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. There's a lot of information given, and these videos will lead you to the truth of the Holy Scriptures, connect the dots for you if you are seeking the truth. If you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And for those that feel a need to support Prophets of Awakening, you can see our information at the bottom of the screen on Cash App. Okay, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, and the Torah being the first 5 books of the Old Testament law that was given to Moses to give to Israel. Shalom and welcome to Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our reading through the Tanakh. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, psalms, do some current events, and some need to know information. And we'll open it up for some Q&A. Then we'll go into our discussion. We'll be reading now the First Chronicles. We're reading about Elijah, connecting some dots. Okay. So this moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts and all that he's doing to bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Okay. Oh Lord, I pray into the Lord, my God, and we make our confessions, oh Lord. The great and dreadful God, keeping covenant and mercy to them that love thee and to them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belong unto thee, but unto us a confusion of face, as it is this day, to the men of Judah, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven us, because of our trespass, that we have trespassed against thee. O Lord, hear the prayer, cause thy face to shine upon thy people, thy sanctuary and thy people, for your sake. O Lord, open thine eyes and thy ears to hear and behold our condition. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do, defer not, for thy own sake. For thy people and your land need you desperately at this hour. Peace be unto you. Okay. So with that being said, I'll read the Psalms right quick. Psalm 95 says, a psalm of praise to the great God. Okay. Oh, come, let us sing unto the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before his presence with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with song. The Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods. In his hand are the deep places of the earth. The strength of the hills is his also. The sea is his, and he made it, and his hand formed the dry land. Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord, our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if we were today, if ye will hear his voice, harden not your heart as in the provocation and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swore in my wrath that they should not enter into my rest. So that was Psalm 95. It's a song of praise to the great God. Anybody have any comments on that? So, like I was saying before, a lot of people don't see this, but the Israelites, Lord of hosts is in the temple. The Levites, they're dealing with him. They see him, and they're dealing with him. So, in verse 2 is another example, another precept of that. It says, Psalm 95 and verse 2, let us come before his presence. So, he there with thanksgiving and make a joyful noise unto him with song. Okay, so we see right here, he's right there. You can't come before his presence and he ain't there. Okay. So with that being said, this is a current event. Okay.
Many developing countries are super excited to join the prestigious BRICS alliance. They can't wait to be a part of it. And guess what? They're going to have a special meeting in South Africa this August. It's amazing to see how these countries are coming together, showing unity and cooperation. By expanding the BRICS alliance, they're showing off their growing strength and making the world a fairer place for everyone. Hold on to your seats, folks, because things are getting even more exciting. Ethiopia has officially joined the competition. They've submitted their application, showing their interest and willingness to be a part of the BRICS alliance. They're filled with hope and crossing their fingers for a positive response. Nils Elam, the spokesperson for Ethiopia Foreign Ministry, shared his confidence by saying, we're really hopeful that BRICS will give us a thumbs up in response to our sincere requests. Before we delve deeper into today's topic, make sure to like and subscribe to Tech Revolution. With that said, let's get this video started. Get ready to mark your calendars, because the highly anticipated 2023 BRICS Summit is coming soon. From August 22 to August 24th, it's all going down in the vibrant city of Johannesburg. President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa is actively talking and planning with the other BRICS leaders to make sure everything goes perfectly. It's going to be a super important and memorable event. BRICS is about to get even bigger and better this August. And guess who's at the front of the line? Ethiopia. This amazing country is making some serious waves, with one of the highest rates of economic growth on the entire continent. Plus, Ethiopia has the second largest population around. That means they're a major force that nobody can ignore. Ethiopia is proudly leading the way as part of the AFCFTA Free Trade Agreement, a movement that's bringing Africa together. They're leaving no one behind, except for neighboring Eritrea. Together, they've done something incredible. They've gotten rid of a whopping 96% of trade tariffs within the continent. Can you imagine that? It means that now, goods from all over Africa can come together smoothly and be used for production, resale, or even be exported. It's like creating a big marketplace that spans the entire African continent. Talk about opening up a world of possibilities. Ethiopia is also making some serious waves. Not only does it have one of the world's fastest growing economies, but it's also the second most populous country in all of Africa. That's huge. But wait, there's more. Many properties that were once owned by the government are now being sold to private individuals or are in the exciting process of becoming private. It's like a whole new chapter of possibilities. And here's the real kicker: Ethiopia is about to take another leap forward. The financial sector is getting ready to open up, which means new doors of opportunity are just waiting to be unlocked. While Ethiopia is making exciting changes, some sectors like telecommunications, finance, insurance, air and land transportation, and retail are being kept a close eye on by the government. They're considered important and will stay that way, at least for now. But hang on, there's more. In the future, something exciting might happen in Ethiopia. They're planning to make some changes to certain sectors like telecommunications, finance, insurance, air and land transportation, and retail. These areas are currently being closely monitored by the government. However, if everything goes well, who knows what surprising things might occur? It's like a door opening to endless possibilities. Now let's shift our focus to Argentina. Last year, Argentina, a country with a strong and growing economy, ranking at 23rd place, made an exciting announcement. They officially expressed their support to join the prestigious group known for its remarkable emerging market status, which offers a powerful alternative to the Western world. Argentina is ready to make its mark on the global stage. Apart from Ethiopia and Argentina, there's a whole bunch of countries itching to join the BRICS party. You won't believe it, but the BRICS bloc, which currently includes Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, is on the verge of a major expansion. According to Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov, almost 20 countries are knocking on the BRICS door, eager to be part of this prestigious group. In a historic meeting held in Geneva, Bangladeshi Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa had an incredibly fruitful discussion. And guess what? Bangladesh has submitted an application to become a member of the exclusive BRICS Club. It's a clear sign of the growing interest and excitement. But that's not all. In an exclusive interview with top sources, Russian ambassador to Egypt, Georgy Borisenko, revealed that Cairo has officially expressed its interest in joining BRICS. Egypt wants in on BRICS, motivated by its strong desire for de-dollarization. Japan's Mainichi Shimbun reports that Iran and Argentina are joining BRICS. And wait, there's more. Big oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Nigeria are eager to join too. If they get accepted, BRICS will control over half of the world's precious oil and gas resources. Just a month ago, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro had a candid conversation with reporters after his meeting with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. And guess what he said? BRICS countries have become a shining light for those who want peace and successful teamwork. It's no surprise that nations from all around the world are rushing to be part of this extraordinary alliance. It's a movement like no other. Wondering why countries are eager to join BRICS? Well, let me break it down for you. BRICS is an important group for countries that are growing and developing. They're all about teamwork and working together to make things better. Their mission is to change how the world is governed and make sure that everyone's voices are heard. This powerful group brings positivity, stability, and takes action to make things better in the world. It's like a really exciting story unfolding right before our eyes. The days of the United States' complete control over the global economy are fading away. Countries around the world are tired of being forced to use the dollar for their transactions. They long can change, and that's where BRICS comes in as a beacon of hope. BRICS is all about providing assistance to nations without any conditions. It's a game changer, breaking free from the dominance of Washington's directives. But what drives BRICS forward? It's all about championing diversity and teamwork, breaking free from the old ways of the Cold War era. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel is a strong supporter. He envisions a fairer and more just global economic order that benefits everyone, no matter where they are. Valeria Gorbachev, the head of a special office at Russia's National Research University, sheds more light on this. She explains that the goals and values of BRICS countries align with what most nations cherish. It's no wonder that the expansion of BRICS is just a matter of time, welcoming more countries into this influential group. Last year, something really special happened at the 14th BRICS Summit. The amazing leaders of these five powerful countries made a plan to invite more countries to join their groups. And the time has finally come for this fantastic family to get even bigger. Now, South Africa is taking charge of the BRICS rotating presidency in 2023. All eyes are on this captivating country as they get ready to host the super exciting 15th summit. The charismatic spokesperson of Russia, Dmitry Peskov, spilled the beans in a really interesting interview. The expansion of BRICS membership will be the hottest topic at the summit in August.
Okay. Any comments on that? Okay. Let's get
Shalom.
Yeah.
All these countries they are talking about with the BRICS, they are not a member of NATO. I'm
No,
asking.
no, they're not.
Okay.
You got France trying to France put a bid in, but I think they denied them.
Okay,
They
because that's
suspect some kind of trickery going on with that.
right. And I think they accepted Finland in, and they are saying that Ukraine after the war will automatic have a shoe in, but that's thank you, sir.
Okay. This is need to know information right here.
Greetings, family. Welcome to the African Exodus Show. I'm your host, Tini Cherie. Before we get started with today's video, I want to remind you all, if you have not already, please do add yourself to my Telegram channel. Telegram is the app that I use to update people whenever I do a video or just want you to share something with the community. So you can connect with me over there. Firstly, just to keep us physically inside of certain places in order to better control us. Now, I'm not here to lecture anyone. I'm not here to push anyone to do anything that goes against their will. I'm just here to paint a picture for you that I feel led to paint based on history and also based on where the world is going at this particular time. Historically, we know that there's never been a day where our people, African people in the United States, have been treated with dignity. We never know there's never been, there's never been a day where people, African people in Europe have been treated with dignity. And yet, a lot of people feel drawn into these systems. A lot of people are leaving Africa to go over the Mediterranean inside of boats that are capsizing and falling over just because they have this beautiful idea of a world where they'll be able to join European society. A lot of lies there, obviously. But the question is, are these places designed for our good, or are they places designed for our derailment? So I actually want to give you some food for thought, just from a historical example. We're going to talk about Marcus Garvey. If you do not know Marcus Garvey, who is known for starting the Back to Africa movement, he was someone who, by all accounts, as far as a white supremacist, you would think that a white supremacist would not think of him as a threat. The reason is he did not come to interfere with the politics of white society. He did not come to try to even integrate into white neighborhoods. None of that assimilationist rhetoric was coming from Marcus Garvey. He came for nationhood. He wanted African people in the United States and abroad Caribbean, inside of the world, really, to understand that our destiny was not to be subservient to someone else in their system, but was to have power in a system where we could actually have dignity and have something of our own, not relying on them, have something of our own. That was what he was teaching. That message was seen as a threat, and one should wonder why. He didn't want power for us in America. He advocated for us going home to Africa, and from there being able to truly have a realization of what power was. Yet that dream to go back to Africa, we hear many people even try to say that today. If you start complaining about the state of America, they say, you don't like America? Go to Africa, go to Africa. Well, Garvey was actually trying to organize a mass movement to go to Africa, trying to advocate for many more people to leave this American dream behind and go to Africa, where you can actually have a dream that is realized because your people are one and the same in the African continent. That's what he was teaching. Why was that a threat? That's the question I want you to ask. So let's read from a memorandum. This is from the Federal Bureau of Investigation's COINTELPRO documents. Just I want you to keep in mind that this man, again, someone who shouldn't have been a threat to the white supremacist society, was seen as a threat to them. So, memorandum for Mr. Ridley, dated October 11th, 1919. I am transmitting herewith a communication which has come to my attention from the Panama Canal, Washington office, relative to the activities of Marcus Garvey. Garvey is a West Indian Negro, and in addition to his activities in endeavoring to establish the Black Star Line Steamship Corporation, he has also been particularly active among the radical elements in New York City in agitating the Negro movement. Unfortunately, however, he has not yet violated any federal law whereby he could be proceeded against on the grounds of being an undesirable alien from the point of view of deportation. It occurs to me, however, from the attached clippings that there might be some proceedings against him for fraud in connection with his Black Star Line propaganda, and for this reason, I am transmitting a communication to you for all appropriate attention. He is the Negro, the founder of the Negro Universal Negro Improvement Association and the African Communities League. And he is the promulgator of the Black Star Line and is managing editor of the Negro World. He is an exceptionally fine orator, creating much excitement among the Negroes through his steamship proposition. In his paper, The Negro World, the Soviet-Russian rule is upheld if there is one open avocation of Bolshevism. So this is the memorandum that was sent to J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover, who has been said to say that the greatest threat to American society is Black unity. Question is for you, why did they feel that way? What about us going to Africa? What about us getting away from America? What about that was such a threat to people who supposedly didn't want us there, didn't want us there to begin with, didn't want us amongst them in politics, didn't want us trying to form militia groups, didn't want us arming ourselves, didn't want us exercising our rights? How is it possible that these people who supposedly did not want us there really were so afraid of a man who was advocating for us to peacefully leave the United States and go to the African continent? How is that possible? Well, I want you to consider an example from scripture. So we're going to read through Exodus 10, 3 through 7. So Moses and Aaron went to Pharaoh and said to him, "This is what Yahuwah, the God of the Hebrews, says. How long will you refuse to let my people go? Behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your territory. They will cover the surface of the land, so that no one will be able to see the land. They will also eat the rest of what has survived, what is left to you from the hell. And they will eat every tree of yours which grows in the field. Then your houses will be filled with them, together with the houses of all your servants and the houses of all the Egyptians. Something which neither you nor your fathers nor your grandfathers has ever seen from the day that they came upon the earth until this day." And he turned and left Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh's servants said to him, "How long will this man be a snare to us? Let the people go, so that they may serve Yahuwah their God. Do you not yet realize that Egypt is destroyed?" However, we know that that was not enough to Pharaoh to let the people go, because Pharaoh's heart was still hardened against Yah's people. I say this and bring up this example to say that Pharaoh would rather have destroyed the Israelites, would have rather have seen them wiped away from the planet, rather than just simply let them go. What does that tell you about this same spirit that operates in the American empire? It tells us that this spirit is one that does not want to let us go. The reason is because they see us as being more powerful if we are not under their regime. They see us as being more of a threat if we're not under their authority. The biggest example of this is obviously during the movement, the Black Power movement. When you see different people who are talking domestically, you see Malcolm X talking domestically, you see Martin Luther King talking domestically, you see so many of our liberation leaders talking domestically, Kwame Ture, whenever they were talking domestically, that was one thing. But when these people started going abroad, when these people started going to other countries, when these people started being involved with other movements, with people who thought similarly, all of a sudden, these people who were all about domestic at one time, but now they're trying to branch out into the international realm, all of a sudden these people become a threat, particularly when these people would go to Africa, when they would go to the African continent, when they would meet African independence leaders, movement leaders, when they would commune with those people, and they would talk about the commonality of struggle. Why was that such a threat? It's because that threat of us not being under their control in America is something that they have actively worked to derail, and they still do so today. Now, to be clear, I have no interest in whether or not each individuals are people, whoever you are. I don't have a personal interest in where you go or what you do. I do, however, want us to realize that the empires that we live under are in the business of keeping us under control, and they'll put certain movements out there in order to do that, such as Black Lives Matter. They'll put certain images out there. They'll put certain depictions of ourselves out there. They'll put institutions in place like the prison industrial complex. They'll put institutions in place like the education system. They'll put all of these things in place because they don't want to see you go anywhere outside of their borders, and they want you to stay right there. And they want you, while you're here, to be in such a depressed state that they can ensure you will never reach your true potential, which you can only find in God. The other, to make moves to get yourself out of this position of dependency on a system that is adverse to you. That's common sense and survival. For some reason, when we talk about this, people will look at you like you're crazy. How dare you speak like this? But this is a survival mechanism. You understand abuse is coming from an individual. It's insanity to expect that individual to change. It's insanity to keep going to them for help. So I just wanted to bring this issue up as far as our unity, as far as our return to the motherland, the Holy Land. Hopefully that will be some food for thought for you. But I thank you all for watching. I will see you all next time.
How you design those programs. In all of the programs that I attended, all of the education that I had, college, public, and otherwise, nobody ever told me that I was an African woman. Nobody ever told me what the history of African people were. Nobody ever told me that America is business, and without business you will have nothing and be nothing. And nobody ever told me how to organize business so that I would be able to develop institutions in my own community. So now the sincerity of all of the programs and all of the education has to be questioned, indicted, and convicted, because the bottom line is that America is not and has never tried to produce African adults who are functional, self-sufficient, who understand their politics, their economics, and their relationship to the world politics and the world economics.
American side with the NAACP, the Urban League, and the traditional We Shall Overcome civil rights leaders of the 50s and 60s that have been all but abandoned and ignored by younger people, Sister Soldier included.
I think that the dice are loaded, and that's what's left out of Mr. Brown's piece. See, there was a period of time in this country after Reconstruction where African people owned a lot of land, owned a lot of businesses, and did a lot of things. But what happened was the American government, the Ku Klux Klan, and other organizations organized in smashing that effort. So it's not that we haven't tried to own land and have not organized businesses. It's that if you are African in America or in Latin America or in the Caribbean or in the continent, you will be hunted no matter what you do, because they do not want us to survive and become self-sufficient. And you can say no, but you haven't lived this life. And you haven't lived
Listen to be happy. I'm talking about that. All right. Oh, now, to paraphrase Senator Bradley of New Jersey, the state from which your piece was. Senator Bradley gets much right when he talks. He does, and he, among other things, and he's not claiming to be particularly original with the observation. We can't get there unless we go together. I have a terrible feeling that behind me are some people who do not agree.
Senator Bradley of the all-white United States Senate said we can't get there unless we all go there together. Sorry, none of us are where he is. That's number one. Number two, you're making a moral appeal to a country that doesn't have a moral conscience. The question becomes that when white people feel serious and angry and upset about abortion, they come out in the thousands up to the millions to say, this is what we believe about abortion. Where is the white outcry against white racism that murders African people all around this entire globe? It doesn't exist. So,
okay. Any comments on that? That's the video is why they don't want us to us going back to Africa. If you want to check it out. No comments? Okay, that was Sister Soldier at the end right there. We're gonna open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about something they want some clarity on, something they want to talk about that they dealt with or heard? Nothing? Okay, we play this here, then we, okay.
Why are they saying that? Why are they saying they don't want want them to want us to come back there? And the senator is saying we can't go back unless we all go back.
I don't think they're talking about back to Africa. I think they was talking about going forward in America. They said the only way there's unity and we're going to come together is, I mean, anything gonna get accomplished is that we all go there together, forward. I don't think he's talking about to Africa.
Okay.
Sister Soldier was referring to going back to Africa, and the video itself was talking about how we've been, ever since we got here, there's been a concerted effort to keep us from going back to Africa. They don't want us to go back.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
But it's nothing new. There ain't nothing new. If you look at if you observe that and check it out, it ain't nothing new, because of like the sister had read, Pharaoh was the same way. They had used us up, built all those cities, and then
yes,
God, our God came and sent Moses to tell him, time is up. Whatever you had going on, your time up. But they didn't want to let him go. So this situation we're in right now is nothing new under the sun. Same powers and principalities that was dealing with the Pharaoh and the Egyptians is dealing with the Americans.
Shalom. So by saying that, at this day and age, for as just like when Pharaoh and Moses took the people, amongst the people were people who had just rode on the coattails of the ones of the believers. So is that like today, if we don't study and learn and show ourselves approved, that we could be bringing along others that could basically drag us down as far as us going forward?
Yeah, it's the exact same thing, and we know the result of that, because of the ones that had the zeal for the Most High and loved Him and loved His laws and statutes and all that. It showed up when they got in the wilderness. Because we was reading last night, well, a big majority of them, when they came up against the king from Akkad, they went and ran back and wanted to go back to Egypt. They was scared, afraid of him and his army. after all they saw the Lord of hosts do. But still, they wanted to go back to Egypt. So they let you know where they was at while they was in Egypt. So all through that wilderness experience, he was getting rid of those people that wasn't, that, you know, they wasn't locked in on him. They wasn't locked in on our culture or nothing. So we're getting ready to go through the same thing again.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody else got anything? Okay, I'm gonna play this here and then we'll start reading out of First Kings about Elijah.
Of the new year in 2009, just weeks before Barack Obama was to be inaugurated as the next president, shots rang out in Oakland, California. A transit officer named Johannes Messerly shot an unarmed 22-year-old black man who lay face down in handcuffs on a public transportation platform. His name was Oscar Grant. Dozens of witnesses, many of whom were returning to Oakland after New Year's Eve celebrations, watched in horror. Some captured his killing on smartphones. Shortly afterward, Black Oakland exploded in palpable anger, with hundreds, then thousands of people taking to the streets demanding justice. Perhaps this outcry would have happened under any circumstance, but the brutality of Grant's death in the few weeks before the country's first black president was to take office felt like a shock of cold water. Police brutality had long been a fact of life in California, but the country was supposed to have entered into a post-racial parallel universe. The optimism that coursed through Black America in 2008 seemed a million miles away. A local movement led by Grant's family unfolded across the Bay Area to demand that prosecutors charge and try Messerly. Protests, marches, campus activism, public forums, and organizing meetings sustained enough pressure to force local officials to charge Messerly with murder. It was the first murder trial of a California police officer for a line-of-duty killing in 15 years. In the end, Messerly, convicted of involuntary manslaughter, spent less than a year in prison. But the local movement foreshadowed events to come. As for President Obama, he turned out to be very different from candidate Obama, who had stage managed his campaign to resemble something closer to a social movement.
Sure.
He had conjured much hope, especially among African Americans, but with great expectations came even greater disappointments. As we get into the video, don't hesitate to hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your comments below. Enjoy. Early in his administration, however, with the full effects of the recession
So notice that, like I was saying before, our tolerance came to a full, and then that's when they brought Obama on the scene, throw it off, and so we see now that it's already prophesied that the Most High was going to raise, he was going to start waking us up. They see that, so look what you got on the scene right now. You got these UIUC, GOCC, UICC, they coming on the scene with they taking up all the airways. Constantly bringing other Negroes in to usurp what the Most High doing with us.
still pulsing in black communities. The conflict between the black president and his base could be detected. Black America was amid an economic freefall as black wealth disappeared. As black unemployment was climbing into the high double digits, civil rights leaders asked Obama if he would craft policies to address black joblessness. He responded, "I have a special responsibility to look out for the interests of every American. That's my job as President of the United States. And I wake up every morning trying to promote the kinds of policies that are going to make the biggest difference for the most number of people so that they can live out their American dream." It was a disappointing response, even if that disappointment did not manifest itself in his approval ratings. In 2011, with black unemployment above 13%, 86% of black Americans approved of the overall job the president was doing, but 56% expressed disappointment in the area of providing proper oversight for Wall Street and the big banks. For African Americans, Obama's presidency had been largely defined by
what if we could cure every cancer one day?
reluctance to engage with the ways that racial discrimination was blunting the impact of his administration's recovery efforts. Obama has not shown nearly the same reticence when publicly chastising African Americans for a range of behaviors that read like a handbook on anti-Black stereotypes, from parenting skills and dietary choices to sexual mores and television watching habits. There is something disingenuous in focusing on poor and working-class Black people, without any discussion about the ways that the criminal justice system has disappeared Black parents from the lives of their children. When Obama talks about absentee Black fathers, he never mentions the disparity in arrests and sentencing that is responsible for the disproportionate number of missing Black men. Few media discussions about Obama's candidacy mention curbing the nation's criminal justice system's voracious appetite for Black bodies. 1 million African Americans are incarcerated, and 1 in 4 Black men between 20 and 29 are under the control of the criminal justice system. Over his first term, Obama paid no special attention to the mounting issues involving law enforcement and imprisonment, even as Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow described the horrors that mass incarceration and corruption throughout the legal system had inflicted on Black families. None of this began with Obama, but it would be naive to think that African Americans were not considering the destructive impact of policing and incarceration when they turned out in droves to elect him. His unwillingness to address the effects of structural inequality eroded younger African Americans' confidence in the transformative capacity of his presidency. There was one moment when Black America collectively came to terms with Barack Obama's refusal to use his position as president to intervene on behalf of African Americans. Troy Davis was a Black man on death row in the state of Georgia. It was widely believed that he had been wrongfully convicted, which would mean that in the fall of 2011, he was facing execution for a crime he had not committed. Davis's cries of innocence were not a voice in the wilderness. For years, he and his sister, Martina Davis Correa, had joined with anti-death penalty activists to fight for his life and exoneration. By September 2011, an international campaign was underway to have him removed from death row. The protests grew larger and more frantic as the death date crept closer. There were protests around the world. Support from global dignitaries rolled in as the international movement to stop Davis's execution took shape. The European Union and the governments of France and Germany implored the United States to halt his execution, as did Amnesty International and the former FBI Director William Sessions. A Democrat in the Georgia Senate, Vincent Fort, called on those charged with carrying out the execution to refuse to do it. We call on the members of the injection team: strike, do not follow your orders, do not start the flow of the lethal injection chemicals. If you refuse to participate, you make it that much harder for this immoral execution to be carried out. As Davis's execution drew near on the evening of the 20th of September, people from around the world waited for Obama to say or do something, but in the end, he did nothing. He never even made a statement, instead sending Press Secretary Jay Carney to deliver a statement on his behalf, which simply noted that it was not appropriate for the president to intervene in a state-led prosecution. In the end, the Black president succumbed to states' rights. It was a moment of awakening for Generation O and of newfound understanding of the limits of Black presidential power, not because Obama could not intervene as his handlers insisted, but because he refused to do so. The Troy Davis protests were certainly not in vain. The day after the state of Georgia killed Davis, Amnesty International and the campaign to end the death penalty called for a day of outrage and protest. More than 1,000 people marched, eventually making their way to a small encampment on Wall Street that was calling itself Occupy Wall Street. The killing of Trayvon Martin in Sanford, Florida in the winter of 2012 was a turning point. Like the murder of Emmett Till nearly 57 years earlier, Martin's death pierced the delusion that the U.S. was post-racial. Till was the young boy who, on his summer vacation in Mississippi in 1955, was lynched by white men for an imagined racial transgression. Till's murder showed the world the racist brutality pulsing in the heart of the world's greatest democracy. To emphasize the point, his mother, Mamie, opted for an open casket funeral to show the world how her son had been mutilated and killed in the land of the free. Martin's crime was walking home in a hoodie talking on the phone and minding his own business. George Zimmerman, now a well-known menace, but then portrayed as an aspiring security guard, racially profiled Martin, telling the 911 operator, "This guy looks like he's up to no good or he's on drugs or something." The guy was a 17-year-old boy walking home from a convenience store. Zimmerman followed the boy, confronted him, and eventually shot him in the chest, killing him shortly thereafter. When the police came, they accepted Zimmerman's account. Martin was black, and the default assumption was that he was the aggressor, so they treated him as such. They tagged him as a John Doe and made no effort to find out if he lived in the neighborhood or was missing. But the story began to trickle through the news media, and as more details became public, it was clear that Martin had been the victim of an unlawful killing. Trayvon Martin had been lynched. Within weeks, protests bubbled up across the country. The demand was simple: arrest George Zimmerman for the murder of Trayvon Martin. The anger was fueled, in part at least, by the overwhelming double standard. If Martin had been white and Zimmerman black, Zimmerman would have faced immediate arrest, if not worse. For weeks, Obama deflected questions, commenting only that it was a local case. It took more than a month for Obama to finally speak publicly about the case, saying, "If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon. When I think about this boy, I think about my own kids." But he also said, "I think every parent in America should be able to understand why it is absolutely imperative that we investigate every aspect of this, and that everybody pulls together, federal, state, and local, to figure out exactly how this tragedy happened." Obama could not come out and say the obvious, but the fact that he spoke at all was evidence of the growing momentum of the street protests that had been building for weeks. Martin's killing was a national and international embarrassment. Black people may have understood that Obama could not lead a social movement against police brutality as the president, but how could he not use his seat to amplify black pain and anger? It was exactly for moments like these that black people put Obama in the White House as impossible to know or predict, when a particular moment is transformed into a movement. 45 days after George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin in cold blood, he was finally arrested. It was the outcome of weeks of protests, many of which had been organized through social media, beyond the conservatizing control of establishment civil rights organizations. In the summer of 2013, more than a year after his arrest, George Zimmerman was found not guilty of the murder of Trayvon Martin. His exoneration crystallized the burden of black people. Even in death, Martin would be vilified as a thug and an aggressor, Zimmerman portrayed as his victim. The judge even instructed both parties that the phrase racial profiling could not be mentioned in the courtroom, let alone used to explain why Zimmerman had targeted Martin. Oh.
Okay. Any comments on that? Anybody remember any of that?
Yes, sir. That
Okay.
was terrible. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. And that's a prime example. What I mean by this, they bring these Negroes on the scene, they have nothing to do with us. So this is what Daniel was talking about when he said the fourth beast is going to be diverse from the other three. So we saw with Egypt. Egypt didn't want to let us go, and they didn't have no other alternative. But now Esau, he know how to slide around all that. He got the boule, he got all these different mechanisms he used to divert us. You know, this the number one main issue they use. They bring these black men on the scene. They don't have shit to do with us. They don't think like Hebrews. They ain't Hebrews. They ain't think they've been programmed and rigged to think like they do. They have nothing to do with us. It's disconnect. Okay. So with that being said, nobody have any comments, we're going to go into our topic for discussion, which is dealing with Elijah. Okay, so I'll start reading out of 1 Kings chapter 17. Is when Elijah come on the scene. Okay, it's in let me get it. 1 Kings chapter 17. Okay, it says Elijah predicts a drought, saying Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, "As the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. Okay, so notice, like I just said in the Psalms I was reading, verse 1 says, Elijah the Tishbite, who was of inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, this is the same Ahab that married Jezebel, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand. So just like the Psalm said, in his presence. So right here, Elijah's telling you, he's standing in front of the Lord. He's dealing with the Lord. He's seeing. He's a prophet, a man of God. So verse 2 says, and the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, give thee hence, and turn thee eastward, and hide thyself by the brook Cherith, that is beyond Jordan. And it shall be that thou shalt drink of the brook, and I have commanded the ravens to feed thee there. So he went and did according unto the word of the Lord, for he went and dwelt by the brook Cherith, that is before Jordan. And the raven brought him bread and flesh in the morning, and bread and flesh in the evening, and he drank of the brook. And it came to pass after a while that the brook dried up, because there had been no rain in the land. And the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belongeth to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there, gathering of sticks. And he called to her and said, fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel, that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand. And she said, as the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said unto her, fear not, go and do as thou hast said, but make me therefore a little cake first, and bring it unto me, and after make for thee and for thy son. For thus saith the Lord, God of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord send the rain upon the earth. And she went and did according to the sayings of Elijah. And she said, and he and her house did eat many days, and the barrel of the meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil, according to the word of the Lord, which he spake by Elijah. And it came to pass after these things, that the son of the woman, the mistress of the house, fell sick, and his sickness was so sore that there was no breath left in him. And she said unto Elijah, what have I done? What have I done? Said, let me see, what have I to do with thee, O thou man of God? Art thou come unto me to call my sin to remembrance, and to slay my son? And he said unto her, give me thy son. And he took him out of her bosom, and carried him up into a loft where he abode, and laid him upon his bed. And he cried unto the Lord, and said, O Lord my God, hast thou also brought evil upon the widow with whom I sojourned by slaying her son? And he stretched himself upon the child 3 times, and cried unto the Lord, and said, O Lord my God, I pray thee, let this child's soul come into him again. And the Lord heard the voice of Elijah, and the soul of the child came into him again, and he revived. And Elijah took the child and brought him down out of the chamber into the house, and delivered him unto his mother. And Elijah said, see, thy son liveth. And the woman said to Elijah, now by this I know that thou art a man of God, and that the word of the Lord is in thy mouth. In thy mouth is true. Okay, so that was chapter 18. And chapter 17. Anybody have any comments on it? Okay, chapter 18. So Elijah returned to Ahab. And it came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the third year, saying, go, show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. And Elijah went to show himself unto Ahab, and there was a sore famine in Samaria. And Ahab called Obadiah, which was the governor of his house. Now Obadiah feared the Lord greatly, for it was so, when Jezebel cut off the prophets of the Lord, that Obadiah took 100 prophets and hid them by 50 in a cave, and fed them with bread and water. And Ahab said unto Obadiah, go in into the land, unto all the fountains of water, and unto all the brooks. Peradventure we may find grass to save the horses and the mules alive, that we lose not all the beasts. So they divided the land between them to pass throughout it. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another way by himself. And as Obadiah was in the way, behold, Elijah met him, and he knew him, and fell on his face, and said, art thou that my Lord Elijah? And he answered him, I am. Go tell the Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And he said, what have I seen, that thou wouldest deliver thy servant into the hands of Ahab to slay me? As the Lord thy God liveth, there is no nation or kingdom whither my Lord have not sent to seek thee. And when they said, he is not there, he took an oath of the kingdom and nation that they found thee not. And now thou sayest, go tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here. And it shall come to pass, as soon as I am gone from thee, that the Spirit of the Lord shall carry thee whither I know not. And so when I come and tell Ahab, and he cannot find thee, he shall slay me. But I, thy servant, fear the Lord from my youth. Was it not told my Lord what I did when Jezebel slew the prophets of the Lord, how I hid 100 men of the Lord's prophets, by 50 in a cave, and fed them with the bread and water. And now thou sayest, go, tell thy Lord, behold, Elijah is here, and he shall slay me. And Elijah said, as the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand, I will surely show myself unto him today. So Obadiah went to meet Ahab and told him, and Ahab went to meet Elijah. And it came to pass when Ahab saw Elijah that Ahab said unto him, art thou he that troubleth Israel? And he answered, I have not troubled Israel, but thou and thy father's house, in that ye have forsaken the commandments of the Lord, and thou hast followed Balaam. Now therefore send and gather to me all Israel unto the Mount Carmel, and the prophets of Baal 450, and the prophets of the groves 400, which eat at Jezebel's table. Okay, 20. So Ahab sent unto all the children of Israel, and gathered the prophets together unto Mount Carmel. And Elijah came unto all the people. Okay, Elijah came unto all the people and said, how long have thou, how long halt ye brethren between opinions? If the Lord be God, follow him. But if Baal, then follow him. And the people gathered him, hold up, this. And the people answered him not a word. Then said Elijah unto the people, even I, only remain a prophet of the Lord. And Baal's prophets are 450 men. Let them therefore give us 2 bullocks, and let them choose one bullock for themselves, and cut it in pieces, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under, and I will dress the other bullock, and lay it on the wood, and put no fire under, and call ye on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of the Lord, and the God that answered by fire, let him be God. And all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. Okay? And then, okay. Say this, all the people answered and said, it is well spoken. And Elijah said, this is 18, 1 Kings 18 and 25. And Elijah said unto the prophet of Baal, choose you one bullock for yourselves, and dress it first, for ye are many, and call on the name of your God, but put no um, fire under. And they took the bullock which was given them, and they dressed it, and called on the name of Baal from morning until noon, saying, O Baal, hear us. But there was no voice, nor any that answered. And they leaped upon the altar which was made. And it came to pass at noon that Elijah marked them and said, cry aloud, for he is a God. Either he is talking, or he is pursuing, or he is in a journey or pre-adventure. He sleeping and must be awakened. And they cried aloud and cut themselves after their manner with knives and lances, till the blood gushed out upon them. And it came to pass when midday was past, and they prophesied unto the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that there was neither voice nor any to answer, nor any that regarded. And Elijah said unto all the people, come near unto me. And all the people came near unto him, and he repaired the altar of the Lord that was broken down. And Elijah took the 12 stones, according to the number of the tribes of the sons of Jacob, unto whom the word of the Lord came, saying, Israel shall be thy name. And when the stones be built in the altar in the name of the Lord, and he made a trench about the altar, and as great as would contain 2 measures of seed. And he put the wood in order, cut the bullock in pieces, and laid him on the wood, and said, fill 4 barrels with water, and pour it on the burnt sacrifice and on the wood. And he said, do it the second time. And they did it the second time. And he said, do it the third time. And they did it the third time. And the water ran down about the altar, and he filled the trenches also with water. And it came to pass at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, that Elijah the prophet came near and said, Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and of Israel, let it be known this day that thou art God in Israel, and that I am thy servant, and that I have done all these things at thy word. Hear me, O Lord, hear me, that this people may know that thou art the Lord God, and that thou hast turned their hearts back again. Then the fire of the Lord fell and consumed the burnt sacrifice, and the wood, and the stones, and the dust, and licked up the water that was in the trench. And when all the people saw it, they fell on their faces, and they said, the Lord, he is the God of the Lord, he is the God. And Elijah said unto them, take the prophets of Baal, and let not one of them escape. And they took them, and Elijah brought them down to the brook Kidron, and slew them there. Okay, so this is a prime example of what I was talking about when our plight with JC. You see these prophets at Baal, they went to they took a bullock cut in pieces and laid it on wood and prayed to their God to come and send the fire down to burn it up. You see the sacrifice, they didn't get no reply. And like I keep saying over and over again, to this day, we ain't got no reply from JC. Because the God of Israel, he showed himself. He showed up and with the 10 plagues in Egypt. He showed up when they brought the water out of the rock. He showed up right here with Elijah. So evidently the God that's in the New Testament ain't the same God in the Old Testament. Because like I said right here, Baal was a false God, a false deity. He ain't never show up. And Elijah mocked him. But like I was saying, these prophets standing before the God of Israel. And they keep telling and saying that all over and over again. And so when he called him, he showed up. And like he said, not only did he consume the sacrifice, but he sucked up all the water and everything else that was around there, dried it all up. And so that's our template right there, because over and over again, we crying out, and we ain't getting no response. So it's no different than JC and Baal. Okay, so I'm in 1 Kings 18 and 41. And Elijah said unto Ahab, get thee up, eat and drink, for there is a sound of abundance of rain. So Ahab went up to eat and to drink, and Elijah went up to the top of Carmel, and he cast himself down upon the earth, and put his face between his knees, and said to his servants, go up now, look toward the sea. And he went up and looked and said, there's nothing. And he said, go again 7 times. And it came to pass at the 7th time that he said, behold, there arises a little cloud out of the sea, like a man's hand. And he said, go up, say unto Ahab, prepare thy chariots, and get thee down, that the rain stop thee not. And it came to pass in the meanwhile that the heavens were black with clouds and wind, and there was a great rain. And Ahab rose and went to Jezreel. And in the hand of the Lord was on Elijah, and he girded up his loins and ran before Ahab to the entrance of Jezreel. Okay, that was read chapter 19. Elijah flees from Jezebel. Okay, and Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done, and whither how he had slain all the prophets with the sword. Then Jezebel sent the messenger unto Elijah, saying, so let the gods do to me, and more also, if I make not thy life as the life of one of them by tomorrow about this time. And when he saw that, he arose and went for his life, and came to Bathsheba, which belonged to Judah, and left his servants there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness, and came and sat down under a juniper tree, and he requested for himself that he might die, and said, it is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am not better than my fathers. And as he lay and slept under the juniper tree, behold, then an angel touched him and said unto him, arise and eat. And he looked, and behold, there was a cake baked on coals, and a cruse of water at his head. And he did eat and drank, and laid him down again. And the angel of the Lord came again 2nd time, and touched him and said, arise and eat, because the journey is too great for thee. Okay, and Elijah flees horror, and he arose and did eat and drink, and went in the strength of that meat 40 days and 40 nights unto Horeb, the mount of God, Horeb, Mount of God. And he came thither unto a cave, and lodged there. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, and he said unto him, what doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of hosts, for the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And he said, go forth and stand upon the mount before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by and a great and strong wind rent the mountains, and break in pieces the rocks before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind. And after the wind, an earthquake, but the Lord was not in the earthquake. And after the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a still small voice. And it was so, when Elijah heard it, that he wrapped his face in his mantle, and he went out and stood in the entering of the cave. And behold, there came a voice unto him and said, What doest thou here, Elijah? And he said, I have been very jealous for the Lord God of Israel of hosts, because the children of Israel have forsaken thy covenant, thrown down thine altars, and slain thy prophets with the sword. And I, even I only, am left, and they seek my life to take it away. And the Lord said unto him, Go, return on the way to the wilderness of Damascus. And when thou cometh anoint Hazael to be king over Assyria, and Jubna the son of Misa shall thou anoint to be king over Israel, and Elisha the son of Saraphat of Abel Milah shall thou anoint to be prophet in thy room. And it shall come to pass that him that escapeth the sword of Hazael shall Jehu slay, and him that escapeth from the sword of Jehu shall Elisha slay. Yet I have left me 7,000 in Israel, all the knees which have not bowed unto Baal, and every month which have not kissed him. Okay, every mouth which has not kissed him. And so, I'm in chapter 19, verse 19. It's the call of Elisha. So he departed thence and found Elisha, the son of Shaphat, who was plowing with 12 yoke of oxen before him, and with the 12th. And Elijah passed by him and cast his mantle upon him, and he left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, Let me, I pray thee, kiss my father and my mother, and then I will follow thee. And he said unto him, Go back again, for what have I to do with thee? And he returned back from him and took a yoke of oxen and slew them and boiled their flesh with the instruments of the oxen and gave it unto the people, and they did eat. Then he arose and went after Elijah and ministered unto him. Okay, so like I was saying before, when you understand that they went to the Old Testament to create the character JC. Everything you see in the prophets and the men of God in the Old Testament doing, they just took it and put it on JC. So we see right here, if you go to Galilee, and JC came to Peter and Paul and them when he called them, right? So check this out. I mean, 1 Kings 19, verse 19. This is called Elisha. This is where they get it from. So he departed from thence. This is Elijah. He's the prophet. So he departed from thence and found Elisha, that son of Shaphat, who was plowing with his 12 yokes of oxen before him, and with the 12, and Elisha passed by him, cast his mantle upon him. Go to New Testament with JC and Galilee. Say, and he left the oxen and ran after Elijah. And they were the apostles done. He left the oxen and ran after Elijah and said, Let me, I pray thee, kiss my father and my brother and my mother, and then I will follow thee. And he said unto him, Go back again, for what have I to do unto thee? And then it says, and he turned back from him and took the yoke of oxen. He turned back from him and took the yoke of oxen and slew them and boiled their flesh with the instruments of the oxen and gave it unto the people. And they did eat. Then he arose and went after Elijah and ministered unto him. So it's exact same thing. We got it from right here. Okay. In chapter 20. Anybody have a comment so far? Shine a light on something?
Shalom, everyone. Brother Leonard, as you were reading chapter 18 and 19, I thought of Psalms 115, right? Idols of
Right.
silver and gold, right? So, in the same with today, you try to tell them that, you know, their God ain't real. They coming after you. So the first lady, she ready to kill him. You know what I'm saying? So that's the same way today with these Christians. They
Right.
don't understand that the God they serve is not real at all. So
Right.
just that, yeah, you were reading that. I just thought of Psalms 115.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna read chapter 20, and I'm gonna close it out right there. It says, Benhadad besieged Samaria, and Benhadad, the king of Assyria, gathered all his hosts together, and there were 32 kings with him, and horses and chariots. And he went up and besieged Samaria and warred against it. And he sent messengers to Ahab, okay, to Ahab, king of Israel, into the city, and said unto him, Thus saith Benhadad, Thy silver and thy gold is mine, thy wives also and thy children, even the goodliest are mine. And the king of Israel answered and said, My lord, O king, according to thy saying, I am thine, and all that I have. And the messengers came again and said, Thus speaketh Benhadad, saying, Although I have sent unto thee, saying, Thou shalt deliver me thy silver and thy gold, and thy wives and thy children, yet I will send my servants unto thee tomorrow about this time, and they shall search thine house and the house of thy servants, and it shall be that whatsoever is pleasant in thine eyes, they shall put it in their hand and take it away. Then the king of Israel called all the elders of the land and said, Mark, I pray you, and see how this man seeketh mischief. For he sent unto me for my wives and my children, and for my silver and my gold, and I denied him not. And all the elders and all the people said unto him, Hearken not unto him, nor consent. Wherefore he said unto the messenger of Benhadad, Tell my lord the king all that thou didst send for to thy servant at the first I will do, but this thing I may not do. And the messengers departed and brought him word again. And Benhadad sent unto him and said, The gods do so unto me, and more also, if thou doest of does of Samaria shall suffice for a handful for all the people that follow me. And the king of Israel answered and said, Tell him, let not him that girdeth on his harness boast himself as he that putteth it off. And it came to pass when Benhadad heard this message, as he was drinking, he and the kings in the pavilion, that he said unto his servants, Set yourselves in array. And they set themselves in array against the city. Ahab defeats the city, and behold, there came a prophet unto Ahab, king of Israel, saying, Thus saith the Lord, Hast thou seen all this great multitude? Behold, I will deliver it into thy hand this day, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord. And Ahab said, By whom? And he said, Thus saith the Lord, even by the young men of the princes of the provinces. Then he said, Who shall order the battle? And he answered, Thou. Then he numbered the young men of the princes of the province, and they were 232. And after them he numbered all the people, even all the children of Israel, being 7,000. And they went out at noon, for Benhadad was drinking himself drunk in the pavilion, and he and the kings and the 32 kings that helped him. And the young men of the province of the princes of the province went out first. And Benhadad sent out, and they told him, saying, uh, There are men come out of Samaria. And he said, Whether they be come out or for peace, take them alive, or whether they be come out for war, take them alive. So these young men of the princes of the province came out of the city and the army which followed them, and they slew every one of his men, and the Syrians fled, and Israel pursued them, and Benhadad the king of Syria escaped on a horse with the horsemen. And the king of Israel went out and smote the horses and the chariots and slew the Syrians with a great slaughter. And the prophet came to the king of Israel and said unto him, Go strengthen thyself and mark and see what thou doest. For at the return of the year, the king of Assyria will come up against thee. And the servants of the king of Assyria said unto him, Their gods are gods of the hills, therefore they were stronger than we. But let us fight against them in the plains, and surely we shall be stronger than they. And do this thing, take the king away, every man out of his place, and put captains on their rooms, and number thee an army like the army that thou hast lost, horse for horse, chariot for chariot, and we will fight against them in the plains, and surely we shall be stronger than they. And he hearkened unto their voices and did so. And it came to pass at the return of the year that Benhadad numbered the Assyrians and went up to Apla to fight against Israel. And the children of Israel were numbered and were all present and went against them. And the children of Israel pitched before them like two little flocks of kids, but the Syrians filled the country. And there came a man of God and spake unto the king of Israel and said, Thus saith the Lord, because the Syrians have said, The Lord God of the hills, but he is not God of the valleys. Therefore will I deliver all this great multitude into thy hand, and ye shall know that I am the Lord. And they pitched one over against the other 7 days. And so it was that in the seventh day that the battle was joined. And the children of Israel slew of the Syrians 100,000 footmen in one day. But the rest fled to Aphek into the city, and there a wall fell upon 27,000 of the men that were left. And Benhadad fled and came into the city into an inner chamber. And his servants said unto him, Behold, now we have heard that the kings of the house of Israel are merciful kings. Let us, I pray thee, put sackcloth on our loins and rope upon our heads, and go out to the king of Israel, peradventure he will save thy life. So they girded sackcloth on their loins, put ropes on their heads, and came to the king of Israel, and said, Thy servant Benhadad said, I pray thee, let me live. And he said, Is he yet alive? He is my brother. Now the men did diligently observe whether anything would come from him, and did hastily catch it. And they said, Thy brother Benhadad. Then he said, Go ye bring him. Then Benhadad came forth to him, and he caused him to come up into the chariot. And Benhadad said unto him, The cities which my father took from my father I will restore, and thou shalt make streets for thee in Damascus, as my father made in Samaria. Then said Ahab, I will send thee away with this covenant. So he made a covenant with him and sent him away. And a certain man of the sons of the prophets said unto his neighbor in the words of the Lord, Smite me, I pray thee. And the man refused to smite him. Then said he unto him, Because thou hast not obeyed the voice of the Lord, behold, as soon as thou art departed from me, a lion shall slay thee. And as soon as he had departed from him, a lion found him and slew him. Then he found another man and said, Smite me, I pray thee. And the man smote him, so that in the smiting he wounded him. So the prophet departed and waited for the king by the way, and disguised himself with ashes upon his face. And as the king passed by, he cried unto the king and said, Thy servant went out in the midst of the battle, and behold, a man turned aside and brought a man unto me, and said, Keep this man. If by any means he be missing, then shall thy life be for his life, or else thou shalt pay a talent of silver. And as the servant was busy here and there, he was gone. And the king of Israel said unto him, So shall thy judgment be. Thyself hast decided it. And he hastened and took the ashes away from his face. And the king of Israel discerned him that he was of the prophets. And he said unto him, Thus saith the Lord, because thou hast let go out of thy hand a man whom I appointed to utter destruction, therefore thy life shall go for his life, and thy people for his people. And the king of Israel went to his house heavy and displeased, and came to Samaria. Okay, so that was 2 Kings chapter 20. Okay, anybody got any comments on that? Anything you want? Yeah. Okay, so that was I read chapter 17 through 20 out of 1 Kings, pertaining to Elijah and a little bit of Elisha. Okay. Anybody got any comments or anything before we go? Everybody good?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll see everybody tomorrow. I mean, well, got the women's line tomorrow night. Men can come in through YouTube at 8 o'clock. So I'll see everybody at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Hello.
Shalom,
Guess what?
everyone.
Be ready.